How you do all? Chris Meshry cleaning windows of the Far Coast once again. So I wanted to drop a video today and talk about that dreaded time of year, which is tax return time. As most of you will know, certainly if you went to school with me, I'd rather bang my head in broken glass than, than do my tax return. So you'd hear I've heard a number of people talking on social media, particularly in some of the forums. They're saying things like, oh, well, you know, why are you spending 240 quid a year on doing your tax return? Oh, you can do that yourself, you're just being lazy. You know, opinions are like bumholes. You know, we've all got them. But for me, I would argue, someone that says something like that, oh, you could do it yourself, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, you're right, you could. But then by that very same token, your customer who, you know, pays you to clean their windows can do the windows themselves. You know, you have to put yourself in the position of the customer. And the customer either hasn't got the patience, hasn't got the skill, hasn't got the inclination, or has far bigger things to be getting on with than cleaning their windows. And the same is true of a tax return. I couldn't give a fiddler's fart about, you know, filling my tax return in. I just haven't got the time. I haven't got the patience. And here's the thing, anybody that knows me will tell you, I am bloody awful at maths. I'm terrible. I mean, you know, the only qualifications I got from school were a footprint on the backside and a note saying don't come back. I was terrible at school, both primary school and secondary school. I was absolutely terrible. And I just want to apologise to my teachers for taking up so much of their time for clearly very little in the way of a result. So as luck would have it, my two daughters, which if I'm being honest is the work of the wife, are doing really, really well at school. Both of my girls are passionate learners. They are mad keen, etc. So, you know, they don't bear a kind of resemblance to the postman either. So I know they're mine. Anyway, joking aside, back to the matter at hand. Yeah, the idea is ultimately that if a guy that does accountancy, etc., an accountant, bookkeeper, etc., will know far more about doing a tax return than you. And not only is it a case of, all right, well, there's the figures, etc., that's how much tax you owe. That is, in my eyes, is worth its weight in gold. But it's not just that you're paying an accountant for. Your accountant is also there as effectively your business financial advisor about how much you can afford. You're thinking about taking staff on, you might need to know what your profit and loss is, how much money you've got coming in versus going out. Can you afford it? You know, a quick phone call to your accountant will turn around and say, well, you know, on the face of it, how many hours will he be doing, how much you're going to pay him, etc. You know, this is how much it costs to have a member of staff for a year, including pensions, PAYE, national insurance contributions, etc. Employers' contribution to national insurance and pension and taxes, etc. This is how much it's going to cost you to hire a guy. And this is how much money you're making, sort of thing. Now, while he will not turn around to you and say, don't do that, Chris, don't do that. Because, you know, he would literally turn around to you and say, you know, the figure you're looking for, the magic number you're looking for to take on that member of staff is this. And if you can hit that number, then yes, you can afford it. You know, and then it's ultimately down to you to make a decision as to whether it's worth it or not. For me, you know, you hear these people, other business owners on Facebook, particularly window cleaners, say, I'll do it myself, Fine, do it yourself. But I just thought I would chip in with a little story, which I hope will sort of shed some light on why I think it's worth it. Okay. Now, as per usual, here comes the usual disclaimer. I am by no means an accountant, so don't take anything that I say as advice. It's not to be construed as advice, but all I would say is, you know, seek help of a professional accountant if you want to talk about anything specific related to accountancy. Okay, disclaimer out the way, let's crack on. So ultimately, I used to have, it's absolutely persistent it down with rain now, so I don't know if you can hear me or not, but it's not good. So the thing is, I used to have an accountant called Julie, and she was lovely. She was a good friend, and I came at it from the position of, I'm petrified about doing my tax return. I hold my hand up. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm petrified about doing my tax return if I make a mistake, etc. and all that jazz. Can you do it for me? Yes, I can, blah, blah. I'll be your accountant. Happy days. This is how much X I pay her a month. So I used to pay her something like, I think it was 40 quid a month for 10 months. So it worked out 400 quid a year. But for me, I didn't care because I wanted it taken care of. So that's that. Now, that is actually quite expensive for an accountant per year. And I'll go into a bit more detail as to how that transpired. So anyway, what happens is then she submits my accounts, I pay my taxes. This is money in, this is money out, that's what you owe. Fantastic. So I went from that and I've submitted a few bits and pieces. And then one year I was told by my accountant, you owe X in January, so you owe this much in January, and you owe this much next July. Okay, it's fine, no dramas at all. So I paid the two amounts, all was well with the world, until I got a letter from HMRC saying, thank you for your payments, Mr. Addis. However, you now owe your outstanding balance, which is due now, is £2,333. Sorry, £2,322. £2,322. Right? Well, my bumhole fell out, and I was like, Julie, what the actual has gone on, sort of thing. And it turned out that what should have happened was, if you ultimately pay ahead for what you expect to pay the next year above a certain threshold. And again, I'm not an accountant, so speak to one, right? But ultimately, the accountant cocked up. So I paid, I've been putting money away, and, I was, right, okay, fine, paid it off, no dramas. So then, having paid it off, I decided, actually, I require someone that's not going to drop me in the shit, excuse my French, next time round. So I sought the advice of another accountant. And it just goes to show that you never know what you're going to get yourself into when you ask the right questions. So I've known Simon for years. Simon Thomas, I've known him for years. And the reason why I didn't go with him to start with is because I hold my hand up. I thought the guy was going to be massively, massively expensive. And in the end, I spoke to him and said, look, yo, X, Y, and Z, I need a bit of advice and all this sort of stuff. And he was like, yeah, no dramas. Anyway, he took me on as a client. And, we've worked through a few bits and pieces. Now, bear in mind, Julie didn't used to do PAYE, which is your staff pay their taxes through, okay? So you pay their taxes. You have to pass on their tax money to the government, okay? By the 22nd of each month, sort of thing. So I have to pay Adam's taxes for him. And again, I'm not going to go into the figures and stuff like that, because when all said and done, he's entitled to privacy, etc. But needless to say, that gets paid every single month. Okay, it's dealt with through PAYE through the accountant. And what happens is now is that I pay Simon £240 a year for the sole trader business, which is less than what Julie was charging us. And then I pay £100, including VAT, per month for the limited company side, okay? And, you know, that's everything included. Now, I run 2 businesses. So when you look at it, there's a lot of things to work out in the limited company. There is things like VAT, because my company is VAT registered for things like jet washing, gutter clearing and all that sort of gubbins. The ad hoc sort of jobs that are, you know, pretty seasonal, to be honest with you. That there, I pay VAT on everything. I pay corp tax on any profits, etc., over £25,000. And then but I don't take a salary. I just let the value build in the business for the next sort of 12 months and see where we're at, and then I can claim dividends. Again, speak to an accountant. I'm probably talking Welsh to a lot of people here, but it doesn't matter. So the bottom line is that this year we've done a tax return. Well, Simon has done my tax return, and he's looked through the figures. And when someone is as gifted as Simon at spotting patterns with numbers, he said to me, and I quote, "Something's not right, and I don't know if certain items have been claimed for or not, if that was deliberate or if that was a mistake." So we sat down, we had booked a meeting, and me and my mum, we went down, because my mum does the admin for the business and stuff like that. So we went down, booked, you know, a couple of hours to go through everything. And as it turns out, Julie had made an error. So we purchased a vehicle, and as it just so happens, it's the vehicle I'm sat in right now. So this van had not been claimed for against my taxes, which meant that ultimately I could have claimed 18% per year over the course of how long I'm paying for this van. So let's say I'm paying for this van now for 5 years, okay? For every year that goes by, I can claim 18% per year over those 5 years against my taxes, because it's a business expense. I don't use this for personal use. It's a business vehicle, okay? That had been missed. Now, what is the upshot of that? The upshot of that, right, is I've gone from owing the HMRC £2,733 in January, and then again in July, to now the HMRC now owe me 1,458 quid and change. So I've gone from a position of, you owe, you know, do the maths, Chris, you owe 5,400, something like that. Yeah, something like that, 5,400. I've gone from owing 5,400 or 5,300 to ultimately them owing me 1,400 quid. Now, I've still got to pay in July £2,733 and change, but I'm a lot happier that I don't have to pay tax in January, because Simon has rectified a mistake from a previous accountant. And again, I bear no ill will, it's nothing personal, and again, I'm not here to shout and scream at people, etc. Mistakes happen. The bottom line is, a mistake's has happened, it's been spotted, and it's been rectified, and I'm golden. And it's a learning experience, okay? But here's the thing, I would never have spotted that on my own. I would never have spotted that in a million years, okay? Why? Because it's not my skill set, okay? I am gifted at many, many things. I am not, by no means, I'm trying to put myself down at all. I am gifted at many things. Numbers and accountancy just ain't it. And so, much like how my customers don't have the skill set, don't have the time, don't have the patience, don't want to do it, okay, have more important things to be doing, in much the same vein as that, yeah, as much the same vein that I take that off my customers, yeah, Simon takes that off me. Because I can earn far more money in the time it takes me to do my tax return than it can, you know, if I just pay him to do it. 240 quid, I can earn that. I can earn that back in a morning. You know what I mean? So, with the greatest will in the world, you decide if it's worth doing or not. But I would strongly recommend any business outside of it, especially outside of its first 3 years, take on an accountant. They are there ultimately to advise you, to protect you, And here's the other thing as well, before I go. If you do your own books and you get audited, you then have to scurry around, get your records together, X, Y, and Z, oh my God, and all this sort of stuff. You have to run around like a headless chicken, trying to get all these facts and figures together. You have to present them to HMRC, and then here's the thing: you have to do that and hope that everything's tickety-boo, right? Whereas if I get audited, God forbid it doesn't happen, find some wood quick, yeah, touch wood. If I get audited, I at least have the assistance of an accountant, okay? And I am fairly, I am 99.999 recurring percent certain that if there is a problem, it can be dealt with the accountant. I go in there with a warm fuzzy feeling, knowing that it's okay. Because if there is a mistake, it's like with anything else, isn't it? You're going to go for low-hanging fruit. And if you're the HMRC, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if you're the HMRC, think of it this way: who are the low-hanging fruit? They're going to be newly minted business owners with no accountant, who have been putting their returns in every single year for, say, 5 years. And after 5 years, they're still putting their own return in. Or even worse, imagine for a minute, and I know for a fact this has happened to a friend of mine called Carl, right? I'm not going to go into specifics, but his wife is a chartered accountant. And she was doing his accounts, his books, his tax return. They immediately got audited. And luckily, everything was right. Everything was fine. She did everything honest. She was above board, etc. And nothing additional was owned. There was no fines. There was no criminal wrongdoing found to be done or anything like that. But for the next 2 years, he was under a microscope. And in the end, his wife said, I'm not doing this again. He has now got an accountant with someone else. You know what I mean? So it's not just whether or not, if you are the government and you are trying to get money off people, off business owners, etc., you tell me this: who they're gonna have an easier time getting that money off? People that don't have an accountant, who don't help them, or people that sort of do their own books? I can tell you something: it's a brave person that wants to take on the HMRC if they get audited. I am not one of them. So anyway, I hope you got some value out of this video. I hope that, I hope that you're all picking your way through your sort of tax return and all that sort of good stuff. But don't try not to get your knickers in a twist over it, etc. What will be will be. But yeah, if you strongly, I strongly recommend you get an accountant. I could not imagine doing what I do without the accountant. There are very few people in this world as a business owner that you can truly rely on other than yourself, but your accountant has to be one of them, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth. As per usual, thanks for enduring to the end of the video. If you like the videos that I put out, please continue to like, share, subscribe, comment. Show me some love in the comment section. Show me some hate in the comment section. I do love a bit of a row every now and then. Have a good one, peeps. Keep on keeping on. I'll see you in the next one.